Everything's in motion. This is one day at a time. Everyone has cancer, and this is where I battle mine. What's up, guys, and welcome back to Everyone Has Cancer, the good old EHC, episode 11. Oh, wow, it's actually 11:11 as I'm recording this. It's 11 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock on the minute. So, yeah, that's important. So, let me tell you something. In 2001, I was diagnosed with leukemia. In 2005, I relapsed and was diagnosed with it again. This time, it came back a little bit harder, a little bit harsher. And, but I'm still here. That was 2005, and here it is 2018. And I am here playing with a pen, still trying to figure out what my whole life is about. So I am... as I'm sure you know by now, my name is Cody. I'm a little out of sorts right now. I'm trying to get back in the swing of things. We had to take a little bit of a break there for a while, and I'm still trying to get a bunch of the stuff in my life in order. And, it's not easy, dude. I'm 33, fixing to be 34. I'm already in the habit of saying I'm 34. But life's hard, man. I thought it was hard when I had cancer. That was easy to me. I mean, that might sound crazy to you guys, but you know what I did? A lot of people told me I was courageous and strong, and, I'm so valiant in nature, and my will is so strong and all this stuff. To me, I laid there and threw up and cried. Lost weight and cried. That's really all I kind of did. And, but that's not what it looked like to some people. A lot of people thought that I just put my foot down and refused to not die. And, that's what happened. But, everyone kind of turns a hero situation. They kind of see a hero even when there's not one. And, if they see you as a strong person, it doesn't really matter what the details are. Because you can't let, the details, you can't let the truth get in the way of a good story. And, that's what I'm here to tell you guys. I'm here to tell you that, the story of me is that I'm a cancer survivor. The truth of it to me, how I translate it, it wasn't that big of a deal. But, it would define who I am. And who I am is a person that doesn't really know what they're doing, but likes to stay in the middle of a fight just to stay in there because it's supposed to destroy me. And I've had a lot of people throughout my life tell me how strong I am, and even though, I haven't always felt that way, now is not one of the times that I feel like Superman, and, I'm just going to keep it real with you guys. So, things are hard, life is difficult, and it's weird, like, when you have a cancer survivor talking to you, because, sometimes it makes more sense in the hospital, they kind of fall in love with their own story, and that's kind of where I'm at right now, is still trying to figure out what all this means. And what it's meant for me is that, I'm always going to struggle, and I'm always going to wonder about, why I went through what I went through, why I'm still here, if it was supposed to be important, or was it just something that happened to me? Was it by random, or, I don't know. I guess best way to explain it is, from a dork like me, would be you're trying to figure out if the tragedy struck you because you're supposed to become Batman and save the world, or if tragedy struck you because you live in a bad part of town and you're really just that's hard to say, a statistic. But you know what? Here's the thing is, what I've been through doesn't define who I am. And I'm not going to let my, the place of my origin and my birth value up to my, current self-worth. What was that quote? It's from a Ninja Turtles movie, but I think Splinter said, do not let your place of origin define your self-worth. So basically what I just said. But a lot of people have told me I was strong because of it. And I've been telling you, I didn't really think what I did was that strong. It wasn't me, it was the people around me that stayed strong for me. If it was just me by myself, I would have laid there, cried, feeling miserable for myself. But it's all the people that were around me that lifted me up, that pulled me through it. And a lot of people say that in award ceremonies and stuff, but I'm still trying to define what that really means. Is if I had it my way, maybe I would have given up on myself. But the people around me just would not let that happen. Failure is not an option, because no matter how many times I want to just lay there and let the current take me, the people that love me and want me around. And they refuse to let me fail, even if I'm laying there. My brother is the type that he's going to throw me on his back and he's just going to start walking. He's not going to tell me how to fix anything. He's just going to pick me up and start walking. It's something that I figured out a long time ago that none of us know. If we went through a hard time in our lives, if we're going through a hard time of our lives, if we're going to go through a hard time of our lives, there's really not a clear-cut definition. There's no aha moment, What I mean by that is there's no moment that makes you realize why you went through it. It's not like a movie, You don't get to suddenly, your father or a king just appears out of the night and tells you, remember who you are, and just basically lays out what you're supposed to do with your life and lays out who you are, who you're supposed to be, or anything like that. Nothing ever gets laid out for us, and it's up to us a lot of the time to define ourselves. And, but if we let the awful things that happen to us, if we let that define who we are, then there's no foundation, because eventually time is going to turn, and you're going to look back and see that the thing that defined you is no longer a problem anymore. It's something that happened years ago. It's something that yes, it was hard when it happened. It's funny. When I was a kid, I used to think when I'd watch action movies or movies like Armageddon or Independence Day, or just stuff where the hero saves the world, not just when it was something big like that, not stop some little terrorist group in a building, which freaking love Die Hard. But I mean, well, you know what? Die Hard is a great example. The dude stops terrorists from, getting all this money, and maybe they weren't going to destroy the world, but they were just trying to get their cut. And, so what happens to that guy afterwards? What happens after, the big war happens and all the good guys are celebrating and the world's a mess because, in Independence Day, all the ships have gone down. Where do you where do you go from there? You never see that. That's just the closing of the story. What about these heroes that save the world? Is that what they talk about for the rest of their lives? And just kind of hope someone's listening to them, or which is kind of what I'm doing here. Or do you get back out there and use the strength that you found to do all this to jump back in the thick of it, because the thick of it is all you know. And the problem is with building off a tragedy and letting a tragedy define you is that you become accustomed. Some people can hit rock bottom and just get accustomed to it and set up shop there. Rock bottom can be great for a lot of people, but unfortunately some people just build a house there. Because it just makes sense to them to just always be lacking, to always be without, and to always, not be normal. Even though, the idea of normality is, that doesn't exist, because no one's normal. Everyone's got their problem, and that's what brings me to the basis of spent 10 minutes to kind of do it a little bit different, because I'm kind of in a little bit of a different mood, guys, but. everyone has cancer. Everyone has their cancer. Everyone has their problem that they're trying to get through. Everyone is trying to get through life. From, the bigwigs at the top that go to work in suits all day, they come home to maybe some kind of mess. Or, when you go through the drive-through window and, the cars are backed up and some kid is at the front, with braces and acne, and he is having the biggest anxiety attack of his life because he does not know what he has gotten himself into. And some people, you can end up opening the door for someone when you go to the gas station, and you have no idea that the person you just opened the door for just broke up with their boyfriend the other night. And that person that broke up with their boyfriend have no idea that they just had the door held open for someone who's trying to figure out how to get their next high because they're addicted to something. Like everyone is busted. Everyone is, doesn't. I have close friends. I won't name them. That one of my buddies that comes to mind helps me out, like more than I feel like I deserve. Honestly, I feel like I'm a burden to some of my friends. But this dude is, he's grown. Helps me out insurmountably, and has a great job. Is in a loving marriage. Kind of has everything a guy could want, and me and him still talk because he doesn't know what to do with his life. And and he struggles with abandonment issues. Because it's just from his backstory, and just leaving names out and any really descriptive things, trying to keep it as generic as possible. But I got some friends that have worked and are just now getting their lives together, past 30, that, had drug addiction problems, I got one friend, I've talked about her numerous occasions on here, that, she was in a relationship with a dude, and the dude he didn't come close to leaving her for dead. He tried to, that was his intent when he left her. He beat the living crap out of her and left her in a pool of her own blood. And she was found 3 days later by her mom. Her mom or her father. I could be messing that up. You know what? Maybe one day I'll have her on here. But, actually, she has given me the go-ahead to talk about her. But had kids, this stuff doesn't know age, and it doesn't, tragedy doesn't have morals. No one's off limits. If you really think tragedy has morals, then, check out the pediatric oncology, which is childhood cancer. Kids die every day, guys, and I'm sorry for being so morbid, but my point there is that tragedy knows no age. So you can easily get through your whole life and not really have to deal with much. And then something happens that makes you look your mortality in the face. And maybe it's not like a gun to your head. Maybe it's not something like that. But for a fact when it happens that the person you are before this few moments is not the person you're going to be on the other side of these few moments. This, this is life-changing. This is going to be completely different. And you are going to be completely different. But if you get out there and talk, if you get out there and tell your story, like I'm doing now, 7 views on my last video, or on my last podcast, and, kind of had to take a month off, because, real life has gotten in the way a little bit, and still trying to get out here and to try and, get the word out that, get the testimony out that love is just around the corner, and, you're not alone, I think I said it on the last episode that if everyone that was broken rose their hand, there wouldn't be a single hand that's down. So yeah, that's the premise of the show. Man, I gotta pick the energy up. So, like the guys at Corticals have been so kind as to let me give me this little soapbox over here to, tell my story and to like try to be a little motivational and to try and, reach some people with more than just the funny, and like, sometimes I get too real on people and like, so it's not for everyone, but the people it's for, they're out there and hey, how you doing? And hopefully this reaches them. But so you can go to the Corticals, which, obviously you're on there right now. Otherwise you wouldn't be hearing, my little nasally, goofy voice. But man, we're working on stuff all the time. We just got this our little version of a Vine up there, the Tootin' on a Douche Flute thing, for the whole Vape Nation. We do Pokemon, we do like opening, like we open stuff up to show you guys what's inside as far as like Pokemon cards and toys and figures. Chris likes to post some of his new action figures and collectibles on his Instagram and the Corticals Instagram, which I need to learn the voice of that. I need to learn the name of that. We also we do a lot of stuff. We got some podcasts. We still need to do a few more podcasts. We got a few more videos coming. We have some really funny stuff and really cool stuff coming down the pipeline. I know August is working on something. I've been working on the script for the first episode of show I'm gonna do, and it's not what this is. It's not like, hey, welcome to Cody's sad depression channel or anything like that. You'll see it when you see it, but it's a lot more fun than what we're doing here. This is for a very selective audience, and when I say selective, I mean the last time I did an episode, ran into my buddy Cash, and he told me he's been loving the show. So of the 7 views, I think he's the 6th. Or maybe the 4th, and but if he listened to it and he's having fun with it and it made him listen to it again, then good. But the whole point of the Corticals is to get us out there and get us all helping each other and to just have fun. So make sure you hit the subscribe button so you can see more of our stuff. One thing is we don't have like a youtube.com/Corticals. We just have like you kind of have to find us through our Facebook page, which is facebook.com/Corticals. And you can find us through there on our fancy, handy-dandy Facebook page that everybody has. And, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. If we do get up to, I think, 100 subscribers, is it? I'm sure you know a lot more about YouTube than we do. But, if we get up to 100 subscribers, then, we get our own URL, which is awesome. And, then we can have youtube.com/Corticals. But, obviously not until then. So head on over there, check us out, give us a thumbs up, watch some of the videos, leave us some comments. Because that's one thing. We got some likes, we got some views, but we don't have very many comments. If you think I should shut up and, oh, God, will you just hush? Will you just quit being such a Debbie Downer? You let me know. If you have something that you want to share, if you want to get out there and say, hey, look, I'm a cancer survivor too. If you want to say, hey, yeah, I dealt with this, that, or the other, or if you want to say, hey, thanks, bro, thanks for talking about the real stuff, bro. Yeah, I don't care what you want to say. If you want to leave the word the and spell it TEH, then you go ahead and do it, man. Like it's your prerogative, and. But we'd love to hear from you. We'd love to, holla back at you. We'd love to, chat with you. But, if you don't talk, we ain't got nothing to respond to. So get on those interwebs and, listen to us and let us know what up. So where did I leave you guys last time? I think last time we had just gotten out of the 3-week turmoil and we were heading straight to the hospital. It was finally time to go to the hospital. So I'm going to throw 30 minutes on the clock, like I've been doing. We might go overtime. I don't know if we will this time, but, it kind of just depends on my mood. I'm a rambling man, so it could end up happening. So, buckle in, and here we go with episode 11. All right. So, it was finally time, it was time to head to the hospital the second time around, but this time it was in OKC, and, I'm obviously dealing with a lot. There's a lot of stuff going on. I've seen all the specialists. I know what's going to be expected of me. I'm going to go to this little room in Oklahoma City, and I'm going to be stuck there for 32 days. And, this little room is going to be my little bubble. I was going to become a bubble boy for a little bit because this whole wing had to be, kind of shut off from the rest of the world, And, it was crazy, because no one in there had an immune system, so everyone had to be kind of, separate. And, you had to get washed every night. It was crazy. It was like being in a really, really, compassionate prison. I mean, that's exactly what it was like. But, we'll get into it. But, man, I'm driving. Well, I'm not driving, but, the whole family's kind of packed into this big van. And, we're heading there. And the night before we leave, I just decide I'm just going to stay up all night because I'm going to want to go there and just go to sleep. I don't want to deal with this. And it's going to be too hard the first day, so I'm just going to go to sleep. And I stayed up all night. We get there, man, and it's I do not sleep that first night. I didn't go to sleep until the night that I think the night after I got there, because I mean it just kind of the hits just kept coming. It was a greatest hits album because we go out there and a little bit before this, I'm still struggling because my dad wasn't really around during that 3 weeks. He kind of we had a shed in the back, and he would just kind of wake up, go to the shed, and he'd be out in the shed all day. And anytime he was in the house, he was usually him and my mom were fighting, and I think just there was one night that I ended up getting curious because I overheard them talking, and then it kind of turned into an argument, and I kind of wondered because this my parents. Funny thing is I had never heard them argue up to this point. I never heard them throwing down or anything. They were very conservative, kept to themselves, and they argue. Never. I mean, I can't really think of a time other than this. And I was just watching TV. I turned on the TV just to kind of overhear, just to eavesdrop a little bit. And I just remember turning down the TV, hearing my dad scream, "I think you love him. I think you love, your son more than you love me." And, just kind of overheard that and just turned the TV back up. Because, okay, well, now I got that to deal with, and then, got mad at myself, I should not have turned the TV down. But yeah, I guess everyone kind of had to deal with it in their own way, and he just didn't deal with it in the best way, and he got jealous of me, which, it kind of made me angry at him for a long time. I mean, I still deal with that. I mean, come on, who wouldn't? I didn't ask to be in the fight of my life, and I'm not trying to have cancer. If it was a choice, why the hell do you think I would choose to have cancer? And but yeah. Anyway, so told you that to tell you this is we kind of drive there. Obviously, it's very, very quiet in the car, and I'm just kind of looking out the window, listening to music, and at the time, anything hopeful, and music-wise, I was always looking for that song that defined me, but they don't really make a lot of songs about having cancer and getting a bone marrow transplant, so yeah, I was looking for something to just give me hope. because because anytime I felt like I was, had some kind of hope, it felt like it was taken away. Like even the day of, I get there and meet with Dr. Selby again, and he tells me, well, we got to go send you over to get you another portacath. So I go over, get the thing inserted in my chest, and I vaguely remember that. Like, I remember getting there real early in the morning, and I kept trying to fall asleep, but I mean, like, I would just lay there with my eyes closed, kind of freaking out, and like So finally get up, get the portacath in and get sent up to my room, and I always been a big dork, so we had all these wall scrolls of mine for like Cloud from Final Fantasy and stuff like that. I'll go into, what, I'm going to spend, just to have fun with it. At some point, I'm going to do a whole episode just on, like, all the stuff I was into that actually did give me hope. And one of the things that really did it for me was this series I discovered, while I was still in high school, that some of my friends showed me, was Berserk. And, if you're a friend of mine and you hear me bring up Berserk, a lot of my friends tune me out right there because, I mean, that's, because I will go on and on and on. And you know what? I'm just going to have to, like, one day, I'm just going to have to do a couple podcasts just talking about Berserk and what it meant to me, and how it kind of has helped me through. And it's weird, like, if you know the story of Berserk, the manga, the anime, the manga, which is still, we're just now getting resolution, and it's like 18 years later. But man, once I discovered it defined me as a person. And it spoke to me in a very, very deep way. I'm just going to say deep 3 times so you get it. 4 times. Deep. Let's make it 5. So let's make it even. Deep. But yeah, like, I had all my Berserk books lined up, and, would just kind of like look up there and just kind of like look at them anytime like I was, really going through a hard time, just thinking, yeah, I guess it could be worse. If you know the series, then you know what I'm talking about. But that's how I felt, like that it was just tragedy after tragedy, and and it was just a nightmare, and I couldn't get out of it. And then, like, once I, some people would look at it and say, God, what a nightmare that must have felt like. That's the thing is, the horrifying thing about this nightmare is when the real nightmare started when I realized that I wasn't dreaming, like that the horror of it being like, no, this is what reality is, and there is no going back. That's where the real, that's what really messed me up. And, that this was happening, that there was no getting out of it. And I talked about that the last episode, but I mean, like, this, it wasn't trying to run. I tried to run from it, but this horrifying thing is what my life is now. And, and once I get up to the room with the whole family and everything, Dr. Selby comes in and lets me know that, they actually just got more results over my kidney and livers, and it's actually worse than, they had first thought. So now, where it was a 50-50 chance, it turned into a 60-40 chance. And the last time, it was a 70-30 chance, but by the time they told me that. And they said, hey, you got a 70-30 chance of surviving this. So, we got a lot of stuff for you to sign. And they start handing me stuff, and, it's all these papers. And, I mean, that I'm sure it's just common procedure, but, they tell me that, and they're like, hey, we have to tell you this. And then, basically lay it out and say, hey, this is we need your signature saying that if you go on life support, who do you want to, shut the machine off, and, that if you do go unconscious, do we have the right to, keep you alive in any manner, way, shape, or form, or would you allow like giant gallons of blood to be transfused into your body? Do you have any religious request if you do go into cardiac arrest for any for any number of reasons? If this happens, do you want a priest? If and like who's the person you want to make the calls if you are cognitively not available? And I mean, just crazy. Like, do you have a last will and testament? Do you want to take the time to make one? They hand me that one, and it's like it looks like a witness report. It's just a big blank piece of paper, and they're like, okay, what do you want to leave to who? And I'm like, dude, I don't have much, and I don't think, I guess to my brother, he can have my video games, and, whoever wants a crap ton of Berserk books, and, whoever wants these wall scrolls, they're yours, and my CDs, but yeah, so I'm sitting there struggling with all that, and, and just signing it all away. And, God, just every little piece of paper that I had to sign just made me cry a little bit harder. And I'm trying to hold it together, and and just it's terrifying. And I just remember Dr. Selby. He was like I said, he looked like he didn't look like a doctor. He looked like a snake charmer. He looked like a dude that really knew a lot about reptiles and lived down on the bayou and could tell you everything you needed to know about everything about the most poisonous creatures in the world. Just real he was white, but like dark complexion, like real tanned complexion, and like real leathery looking, and like long brown ponytail. Just looked like a dude that knew a lot about snakes. Like, that's honestly the best way I could describe him. And this dude cut right to the bone. Like, he was a you heard of a no BS type dude. That like he was. That dude kept it 100. And I remember, one time him looking at me and being like, hey, we got to get you, like, no bedside manner either. He was just like, hey, by the way, have you had a tetanus shot yet? And I was like, oh, no, I haven't. And he was like, okay, well, we need to go ahead and get that so you don't get lockjaw and die. So let's go ahead and schedule that up. And all right, next thing is your kidneys are crap. I don't know why you had to drink so much, but like, here we are. I mean, just real, like, no nonsense. Like, hey, we got the stuff to do. But he was the best of the best, and he was the guy to go see. So I mean, like, it worked. I was just, I wasn't there to make a friend. I really needed a friend, and in this room full of people, I felt completely alone. Because of what I was going through. But, this dude wasn't, he was there to lay down the law. He was that detective that, shut down all the BS and, like, got to work, but yeah, he just kind of looked over at me and kind of looked at me for a minute, kind of like assessed, I guess, kind of what I was going through, and was just like, Cody, if I didn't think this would work, I wouldn't be doing it. If you were a lost cause, I wouldn't have had you brought here. And in his little weird, and he was weird too, so I mean, in his little cutthroat way, that helped me out. That he was so no nonsense about everything. But, he sat there and told me look, dude, if I thought you were going to die, I wouldn't have helped. I would have just sent you packing. And but yeah, he was like, look, Cody, if I didn't think it would work, then I wouldn't have had you sent here. So let's get to work, and ended up telling me look, like, now you got to sign all this stuff saying that, your blood is going to be irradiated blood. And, so like if years down the road from now, if you ever need a blood transfusion or you're unconscious and they take a blood test and they're just like, holy crap. And like, I'm just like way off the charts, I need to have someone to say, oh wait, he has irradiated blood, so like I can't do a blood like I can't go donate blood basically, unless they want super mutant babies. And so once I sign all the papers, it's time to lay there for a while. And this is real petty in first world, but like at one point I turned on the TV because like I gotta assess what I got and what I'm working with. So I turned on the TV and I got 3 channels. I turn on the TV just to see like kind of what channels I'm working with here, because it's different everywhere. And so I turn it on to see if is it different in Broken Arrow and Tulsa, or the channel is different in OKC. And I had 3 channels, and one of which I got lucky because one of which was UPN, which at the time was this is obviously, it's way back in the day, if you remember UPN. But it was the channel that every Friday night had wrestling on it. At least I had SmackDown, like I had something to look forward to. And they roll in another TV, and I've brought my my PS2 and my Xbox 360 with me, and so I had those sitting next to me and ready to be played. Or not, I'm sorry, not my 360. This is before that, but just my Xbox. I had a PSP, I had a Game Boy Advance, like I had all my gaming stuff. And, we had rented this laptop at the time. Like, I didn't have a laptop, but we rented one from Rent-A-Center. And, so I'd have, something to be on the internet with. And, so I just set up shop here. It was my little command center, but it was such a small room. Like, I wish I could explain to you how small this room was. Basically, you walk in the room, there's a giant hospital bed in the room, and if you laid in the hospital bed and you were maybe like 6'2" and stretched your arms out, you could probably touch both walls. Like if you went to either side of the hospital of the bed itself, and between the wall and the bed on either side, you'd have to turn sideways and kind of wriggle your way in there. And, I'm really kind of over-exaggerating on that, because now that I'm thinking about it, there was like a big, giant, like dad chair to my right. And, what they wanted you to do every day is to, wake up in the morning and get in that chair, and sit up. Because, if you laid flat, then your lungs could fold, And, they tell you all this stuff that, like, since you're going to be in here for so long, if you sit flat, then, or if you lay down the whole time and just kind of like lay in like a prone position, you can get bed sores, of course, or your lungs can fold at the bottom and develop little pockets of like liquid, and you can end up giving yourself pneumonia by laying down. And everything was out to kill me. So. And I really mean that, because they were going to kill my immune system and give me a new one. And that's why you had to stay in there for 32 days, is because they were going to destroy your immune system and then give you another one. And they didn't just give you another one and you were good. All right, there's your new immune system. It came in the mail. Like, no, your body had to kind of, through the bone marrow transplant, your body had to take a new immune system like it was brand new. And it had to be born, It had to be born again, so to speak. And that meant like you're, that basically what that means is that I am 33 years old, fixing to be 34. My immune system is 12. I have the immune system of a 12-year-old. So yeah, like year one, I had to get my year one baby shots. I had to get all those again. Anything that was already in my system from like childhood diseases, and we'll get into that later, but you're probably going to get the adult form of it. So if you had chicken pox, you're going to get shingles, and stuff like that. And I had to sign all this stuff for that. And then they were like, we want you to get out and get some exercise every single day. So we're going to have a physical therapist come through every day and, like basically force you out of bed and do stuff. If you walk down this hallway, it was like the scene out of like any kind of horror movie with like an abandoned hospital. There was just nothing in the hallway, nothing, except for a little exercise bike. And I don't mean like, the kind you see on TV today. I mean like the kind like you might see at a pawn shop, for $11. And they wanted you to get on it and ride it, for maybe like 15, 20 minutes, every day. Not to get in shape, but I mean just to get the blood flowing. And, you had to eat. Because like if you didn't eat, then you could live off the fluids for a little while, like that they're kind of feeding into you, but your digestive system will start shutting down, and if organs, that means organs will stop being used, and if your organs aren't used, then they stop working entirely, and you die. So I mean, like if I laid there for too long, I could die. You can, I don't know if you knew this, but you can literally die from laying down for too long. You can die from being lazy, and you can die from a broken heart. And, speaking of which is, what really broke my heart was when it was time for everyone to go. Because that's when reality set in. Like, my brother was kind of spearheading the whole thing. And, he was the strong one of the bunch. So, and he's the person I reached out to. And, I mean, like, spiritually and in my heart, like, that's the person, he was who I needed. Like, he was my Superman symbol in the sky. He was the guy that, if he was in the sky, then I knew I was going to be okay. Like, if I looked up and saw him, then we're all right. So I knew that once he left that room and headed back home, that game was on. Like, the fight was on, and it was time to get real. So, good Lord, I tried my damnedest to keep him there. And, I stalled for a while and, like, tried my best. And then, tried to keep it together and everything. And he ended up, but, that time came and he ended up having to leave. And I remember feeling like a child being left at, like if any of you parents out there left your kid at daycare for the very first time, it was like that. And some parents might say, oh, actually my kid took right to it. But some parents know what I'm talking about there when they started freaking out because suddenly mom or dad was leaving them here, and they were going to have to fend for themselves. Like, that's how I felt, and 20 years old, feel like I'm getting left at daycare, and my mom wasn't going anywhere, but I knew for a fact that when my brother left, the fight was on. The fight was going to start, and I was so freaking unprepared. Like I was completely prepared. I had signed away, like legally, I guess I was prepared, but mentally, spiritually, dude, even Jesus Christ sat there, the night before he was going to get crucified and said, if this cup can pass me, then please let it. Jesus Christ himself, the guy who, I believe died for our sins, knew what he was fixing to go into and said, well, all right, let's do this and your will be done. But if there's any chance, any last minute opportunity for me to get out of this, I would love that. Just, and then I am not, okay, real quick, I just realized what it sounds like I'm doing. I'm not likening myself to Jesus. I'm just saying that, like, even someone that high on the totem pole would say he'd rather not do this. Down to little old me, little minuscule guy in Broken Arrow that is still trying to get his life figured out at a grown age. Like, just like that, sat there and said, dude, I don't go. Don't. And I remember I remember telling him, just don't go, because once you're gone, I gotta fight, and I don't want to fight. I just don't want to do this. Even if there was no getting out of it. And he sat next to my bed and told me something that that I never thought in a million years, is you find out stuff when you reach out. And he told me that he doesn't want to go, and he starts crying, and he says, but I have to, and I wish I could go through this for you, but I can't. And it's not because this was handed to you and not to me. It's because if I was going through it, it's because you're going through it because you're strong. And if I was going, and you're gonna live, you're gonna make it. And that's kind of why it's your fight and not mine. Because if it was mine, I'd be dead. I wouldn't be around. I would have given up. Like, I'm not strong enough to do this. And like, when you see yourself, you don't see the impact you have on people's lives. You may never know. I mean, you may never understand what you mean to somebody. But even when they tell you, it's hard to fathom, because they're not in your head. You're in your head. But I sat there and said, okay, well, now I have to do it. Now there's no other way, and I have to live, because if I don't live, then you don't live. If I'm not here, to be loved, then you can't love me. Like, I'm better people, or better people with words, I guess, is the best way to say it, can say it. But you never really know, even when you feel like you're on a broken bridge, or you're standing in quicksand, you have no idea just your existence, like what you're holding together. And when I don't know what's a poetic way to say it, but when you're falling apart, you have no idea what you're holding together. It's okay to be falling apart, because the things you're supporting are going to support you back. And everyone feels like, the very center of their own story, because they are, because no one is, like I said, no one is in your head but you. But, something I've said before on this show is that you are not your inner monologue. You are, don't let you define you. Let how people feel about you define you. And if they don't feel positive about you, then screw them. Stick with the people that, make you feel like you're making a difference. Stick with the people that make you feel like, you're a good influence, that you're helping. The people that support you and the people that love you today only love you because of what you've done in life. And there's no college for that. There's no degree you can get for that. You can't go to college and get a bachelor's degree in being you. Like, the people that are around you and the goodness that you have in your life is all because of your works. Listener, the person listening to this, think of the person that loves you, and think of the person that has helped you through everything. That has given you good advice. Just think of that one person that has, that you don't feel like you deserve as a friend, or that person that you have shared a belly laugh with. That person is in your life because of what you have done. Let that define you. Don't let, like, what you have to show for anything. Like, don't let that define you. What the people that you're surrounded with, let that define you. And if someone disagrees with you, and don't let the negative don't let that define you, because you know how many people have someone negative in their life that they have kept around, just that one person in their life that they have kept around, you know, for the entirety of their lives, unless they're just a glutton for punishment. You know, those relationships have always fallen apart, and you hear about, you know, drama. You hear about people falling apart all the time. Oh, and there's my timer, and as you can hear from it, I got a new phone. So that's good. But you never, you know what, it looks like I am going over guys and girls. But you never really know by your own definition if you're doing good or not, you know? Like, you'll never, I don't think you'll ever have someone, like, when you die, no matter who you believe in, me, you know, I believe in Jesus, you know? I mean, he's not going to meet me at the pearly gates. I really don't think this, you know, and I know some places preach it, but I don't think he's just gonna like go off a checklist of all the things I've done, how much money I've made, how many people I got into heaven, or that I, you know, preached the gospel to, or, you know, how many drugs I've done, and or how many like people I've hurt, and how many cuss words I've said. He's not just going to look at the book of me and say, well, the bad outweighs the good, so it doesn't matter if you had your heart in the right place. You got to go down south. You know, I really think it's not going to matter. You know, like it's something my grandfather used to say is like, you know, when it's all said and done, you're always going to have questions, but you know, when it's all said and done, none of the questions are going to matter. You know, and I take that as what matters is love. You know, what matters is embracing forgiveness. Is, you know, the strength in, you know, in facing yourself. And the reason some of us feel so itty bitty and minute and worthless is because of the stuff we hold in, and that's why I'm here to tell you, let it out, dude. I'll be honest, is I had a completely different mindset when I started this. Like this very episode 11, I had a completely different mindset then than what I do now, you know, and it's all because of talking. You find out a lot about yourself from talking, so get to talking, you know, and I've barely told you guys anything about getting to the hospital. I told you about signing in and signing my, like, quite literally signing my life away, and we get down to you know, got down to my brother finally leaving, and, you know, I had a few words with, you know, the other people that were there, my brother's wife at the time, you know, which that relation, obviously I say at the time, you know, I'm always going to be like very thankful to my brother's ex-wife's family because of what they ended up doing for me. And, you know, we'll talk about that next time. But for right now, you know, everyone had said their goodbyes, and I had those deep conversations with everyone. And the only person I was really going to see was my mother and my sister. Because my sister had to go through her own little struggle there. And dude, she gave everything. She gave me everything. She gave me life. A part of her life, like not just a part, but it's equivalent exchange. Like she gave me a half of her life so that I could live the rest of mine, you know, and I'm always going to love her for it, and I'm always going to want good for her, you know, and, you know, I mean, it's her blood that pumps through my veins, not because she's my sister, but because she is the reason I'm alive today. Like, she was the bone marrow transplant match, you know, and, you know, they said that in any closer and we'd be identical twins. I mean, come on. Me and her have had our differences that every sibling has. And, you know, I don't really get to talk to her, or I don't talk to her, I don't talk a lot about her on the show. But, you know, there's... On my brother, I could talk and talk and talk and talk about. My sister leaves me speechless. You know, like that's just she really does. She's a lioness. You know, like she battened down the hatches and was willing to give me her blood so that I could live. Said, "Hey, I don't have the words to say. I don't have the money to give, but you want my blood? Here you go." So yeah, there's a lot more to talk about. There's in the hospital days, that time around, the 32, we'll talk about next time how that 32 days turned into 28, not because I was doing so good, but because I was literally losing my mind. I started going clinically insane, and, I got close to breaking, and I ended up having a whole team of psychiatrists come in and say, we got to get him out of here now. Because if he's here for another week, he's going to start hallucinating, hearing voices, or developing multiple personalities. Like, I was quite literally at my mental breaking point, and I was about to have a mental breakdown. And we had to make a call. So that's what we'll talk about next time, is the mental struggle that I was going through. Because, this time around, like, the best way I was ever able to explain it was, cancer and getting treatment for it is like fighting the biggest villain you've ever fought, but in the middle of a minefield with bombs going off. So, thank you guys so much for joining me this evening, or this morning, or this afternoon. Sorry for being a little melodramatic and being a little bit somber. But next time I'll try to have a little bit more excitement. There's some really positive things to come out of this, and I just hope that that if everyone, like I said, if everyone in the world everyone in the world that was going through something that felt broken and felt like they had nothing to give and was insecure because of the crap that they went through, or thought that they had the worst luck and the worst trouble in their life, if you've ever felt like that, I'm just going to go ahead and say it one more time, is that if everyone that felt broken rose their hand, there wouldn't be a single hand down. So, that's my story so far of my battles and my wars. I hope my story helps you. Now go help someone with yours.